Let's start with something true. Most people don't wake up thinking, how can I deceive today? Or how can I let my jealousy spill into someone else's joy? But sometimes the parts of us we haven't healed, those raw, aching places, speak louder than our intentions. Envy and falsehood don't usually wear neon signs. They whisper, mask, and pretend, but they're there. And learning to recognize them, not with judgment, but with wisdom, is part of keeping your peace. Envy rarely comes storming through the front door. It slips in through the cracks. It doesn't always look like glaring jealousy or outright sabotage. In fact, the most common and dangerous form of envy is the quiet kind, the kind that smiles at you while secretly shrinking inside, the kind that claps for your success but walks away feeling smaller. It often shows up in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. A compliment that feels just a little off, too forced, too pointed, too delayed. A friend who celebrates with you, but only after everyone else has. Someone who shifts the mood when you walk into a room lit up with something good. Envy tends to wrap itself in politeness. It doesn't yell, it whispers. It doesn't confront, it retreats. You'll feel it more than you'll see it, and that's what makes it tricky. Because if you call it out too soon, you risk being labeled sensitive. If you ignore it too long, it chips away at your peace. Here's how it works. When someone carries envy, it isn't really about their own pain, what they believe they lack, what they think they've failed to achieve, how far behind they feel. Your joy, your growth, your visibility, it doesn't create that envy. It reveals it. But here's the hard truth. We often dismiss these subtle cues because we want to keep the peace. We tell ourselves, they're probably just having a bad day, or maybe I'm reading too much into it. And sometimes that's true, but other times, it's your intuition trying to protect you. You don't need to react harshly or hold grudges, but you do need to see clearly. Envy left unchecked can quietly erode the trust in your relationship. It can distort the way someone shows up for you or fails to. So when you notice those subtle cues, don't panic, don't retaliate, just take note, pause, step back, observe the pattern. Because clarity isn't cruelty and discernment isn't drama. It's self-respect. Falsehood often sounds polished. Falsehood doesn't usually come wrapped in chaos. It shows up tidy, smooth, and well-rehearsed. It's the story told a little too perfectly, the answer that rolls off the tongue with no hesitation, no uncertainty, no soul. The trouble is, we've been taught to associate confidence with truth. If someone sounds sure, they must be honest. If they speak with clarity and charisma, they must be authentic. But that's not always the case. Because falsehood is often crafted carefully. It's been practiced in the mirror, tested in small conversations to see how people respond, polished until it gleams. It's the version of the truth that protects someone's image, not their integrity. It's what gets said when the real story feels too vulnerable, too messy, or too exposing. And so instead of transparency, you get a performance. You can usually feel it when it happens, like something in the conversation just slides over the real thing. There's no pause, no processing, no sense that the person is actually in the moment with you. Is delivery. And if you're someone who values authenticity, this can be disorienting because you may find yourself questioning your instincts. but they sounded so certain. They looked me in the eye. They didn't stutter or hesitate. How could that not be true? Here's what no one tells you. Truth is often messier than lies. It comes with stumbles, pauses, and the courage to say, I'm not sure, or this is hard for me to explain. Realness takes emotional effort. It doesn't always sound smooth because it hasn't been curated. It's being lived. So what can you look for? Watch for the over-scripted. If someone always has the right thing to say in exactly the right way every time, that's not raw. That's rehearsed. Notice the lack of vulnerability. Falsehood rarely leaves room for discomfort. It's built to keep emotional distance, not to invite closeness. Pay attention to the feeling in your body. Your nervous system often picks up on what your mind hasn't fully processed. If something feels off, even when the words sound right, lean in. Ask yourself what you're sensing beneath the surface. This doesn't mean you walk around distrusting everyone. It means you grow wise enough to know that not all polished stories are true. And not all awkward moments are lies, because truth isn't always shiny. Sometimes it stumbles. Sometimes it trembles, but it always stands when you give it time. Tone is truth's companion. Words carry information, but tone carries intention. And when it comes to recognizing truth in others, tone is often the clearest window you've got. It's easy to focus on what someone is saying, what the sentence looks like on paper. But the how behind the words often tells you everything you need to know. The cadence, the warmth or lack of it, the silence, the sharpness, the silence between the syllables. Because truth doesn't just live in the sentence, it lives in the delivery. You can say, I'm happy for you 100 different ways. Some versions will feel like love. Others will land like a dagger in velvet. You felt it before. The smile that didn't quite reach someone's eyes. The kind words that landed cold. The apology that sounded more like a performance than a reckoning. That's because tone doesn't lie, even when words try to. It's especially important in relationships, friendships, families, teams. Sometimes someone says the right thing, but something inside you still tightens. You hear the words, but your body feels the dissonance. That's your inner wisdom picking up on a tonal mismatch. Here's the thing. Tone holds emotional weight. It reveals what someone is trying to do with their words. Are they trying to connect, control, avoid, deflect, uplift, diminish? That's what tone tells you. Let's break this down. A kind truth sounds steady. Even if it's uncomfortable, it's delivered with care. There's no sting, no superiority, no edge. A dishonest reassurance sounds hollow. It moves too quickly to wrap things up. There's no spaciousness, no pause to feel or connect. A veiled insult comes with a sweet smile. That's tone doing the heavy lifting while the words pretend to be harmless. And here's what's most important. You are allowed to trust how something felt more than how it sounded. You don't need someone to outright insult you to sense they've diminished you. You don't need a transcript to prove misalignment. If their tone made you question your worth, your place, your story, that matters. Because when someone is grounded in truth, their tone brings peace, even when the message is hard. And someone is hiding, projecting, or posturing, their tone carries tension, even when the message sounds kind. So listen with your ears, yes, but also with your body. with your heart. The truth isn't always in the words. Sometimes it's in the way they were spoken. Tone is truth's companion. If you want to hear the truth, listen to what's not being said out loud. You want me to do the next one? Watch for pattern over moment. Watch for pattern every moment. We all have bad days. Moments where we snap, moments where we miss the mark, moments we wish we could rewind, edit, and play back better. That's human. But when you're trying to understand someone's character, when you're trying to discern whether envy or falsehood is at play, you have to look past isolated moments and study the pattern. Because a moment is a snapshot, a pattern is a story. It's easy to excuse things when they come one at a time. They were probably tired, maybe they didn't mean it that way. It's not a big deal, it only happened once. But here's the truth, things that only happen once don't keep happening. If someone constantly interrupts your joy, that's not just a rough day, they're uncomfortable with your light. If someone routinely shifts blame, dodges accountability, or tells half-truths when things get real, that's not just poor communication, it's a coping mechanism. If someone consistently makes you question yourself, your memory, or your worth, that's not sensitivity on your part, it's a pattern of erosion. And yet we're often taught to be generous, to extend the benefit of the doubt. And that's not wrong. It's actually beautiful that generosity without boundaries becomes self-abandonment, especially when the same behavior keeps repeating itself under different disguises. So here's a gentle invitation. Track the pattern. What do you feel after most of your interactions with this person? Do you leave conversations feeling seen, safe, and steady, or small, foggy, and doubting yourself? Do their words and actions align over time, or are you constantly managing emotional whiplash? The truth is, most people reveal themselves slowly. They don't show their full hand all at once. But over time, the small things stop being isolated. They become a rhythm. And rhythms reveal the root. This isn't about keeping score. It's about keeping clarity. Because one lie might be a mistake, but repeated half-truths, that's a pattern. One moment of envy might be unconscious, but repeated sabotage or subtle withdrawal in your joy, that's a signal. And when you see a pattern forming, you don't have to confront or accuse. You simply have to pivot. Adjust your expectations, pull your energy back, redraw your boundary. You don't need to announce your awakening to someone whose behavior has already told you the truth. Just move accordingly, lovingly, quietly, clearly, because the moment may not mean much, but the pattern is everything. Ready for the next one? Energy doesn't lie. You can say all the right things, you can wear the perfect expression, you can smile, nod, and go through the motions, but the energy underneath it all, that's where the truth lives. And the thing about energy is, it doesn't lie. We are wired to feel each other. Long before language, we communicated through energy, facial expression, tone, posture, presence. And that part of us still works. That subtle intuitive sensing we sometimes ignore because it doesn't come with proof or logic. That's wisdom. That's your nervous system reading the room before your brain can catch up. Think about it. Ever walked into a room and felt the tension even though no one said a word? Ever had a conversation where the words were sweet but something in you just tightened? Or the opposite, a moment where someone didn't say much, but you felt seen, safe, held, That's energy doing what it does, revealing what words can't. When it comes to envy and falsehood, energy is often your earliest signal. Someone might be saying all the right things, clapping when you win, nodding when you speak, but something feels off. Something in their body, their eyes, their timing tells a different story. You can't always explain it, but you know it. And here's the hard part. We've been trained to override this knowing, especially if we're empathetic or conflict averse. We doubt our gut. We second guess. We give people the benefit of the doubt at the expense of our own clarity. But here's a reframe. You're not being judgmental. You're being attuned. You're listening to the part of you that doesn't need permission to sense danger, misalignment, or insincerity. You're honoring the intelligence that comes not from suspicion, but from years of experience, heartbreak, healing, and observation. Because while someone can fake a smile, they can't fake presence. They can't fake the clean, clear energy of someone who isn't trying to compete with you, diminish you, or deceive you. And when someone's energy is off, you don't need to call them out. You don't need to collect receipts. You don't need to convince anyone else. You just need to trust yourself, even if you don't have the words for it yet, even if it's inconvenient, even if it makes you pull back from someone you wanted to believe in. Energy is the language beneath the language. It speaks with or without permission. It always tells the truth. And it's okay for you to listen. When you start seeing envy and falsehood clearly, when the masks slip and the energy shifts, it can be tempting to respond in extremes. Some of us go soft. They didn't mean it, we whisper to ourselves. We shrink our needs, downplay the betrayal, and stay silent to keep the peace. Others go sharp. We cut people off, build walls, and declare, I don't need anyone. But there's a middle way, a strong, steady path that honors both your humanity and theirs. It's called holding grace and boundaries together. Grace says, I see you're hurting. I know that envy and dishonesty are usually symptoms of something deeper. Fear, insecurity, scarcity. I won't demonize you for being human. Boundary says, but I still get to protect myself. I still get to choose peace over proximity. I still get to walk away from anything that chips away at my clarity, joy, or safety. This is sacred work, learning how to stay open-hearted without staying unguarded. It's not about being nice, it's about being true. Grace without boundaries turns you into a doormat. Boundaries without grace turn you into a fortress. But when you hold both, you become someone who can see clearly without becoming hard. Someone who can step away without creating drama. Someone who can say, this isn't healthy for me, without needing the other person to be a villain. This is where your power lives, not in controlling other people's behavior, but in regulating your response. In saying, I can love you and leave the room. I can wish you well and still stop sharing parts of my life with you. I can forgive you and still choose myself, because grace sees the humanity in others. Boundaries protect the dignity in yourself. Holding both means you stop trying to fix people who don't want to change and start choosing peace over potential. It means you trust your discernment, even if it means walking a lonelier road for a while. It means you love from a place of truth, not obligation, not fear, not performance. And most of all, it means you remember that your softness and your strength are not opposites. They are partners. They live together in the same body. And when they work in harmony, you stop just surviving relationships. You start thriving inside your own self-respect. It's about clarity. It's about protecting your peace, not building